So today we're going to take this pile of junk that's sitting here on my bench and turn it into this. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then stick around. So here's the basics of our audio frequency amp signal tracer. You've got your input here. This is coming from, in my case, a guitar cable. But it's important to understand this could be the lead from an RCA jack that you're going to plug into the back of an amplifier. It could be an 1/8 of an inch jack. Any kind of audio jack would be fine. Depends on what kind of amp you're going to use to actually monitor your signal with. So from your positive lead, you're going to have a 100K half-watt resistor in series with a 0.1 UF, in my case a 50-volt nylon or polyester film cap. You can make this a 350 to 630 volt cap. I do have this capacitor, which is a 630 volt capacitor, same 0.1 UF. I mean, if you're going to probe high voltage amps, obviously you would probably want to use a higher rated capacitor. In my case, I don't really need it for what I'm building this for, so I'm going to use a 0.1 UF polyester film at 50 volts. In parallel to this, you've got a 10K half-watt resistor, and then it goes to your ground clip. It's a very basic circuit. In my case, I'm going to use a 100K half-watt resistor there. And then I'm going to use this big honking, I think it's 2-watt, 10K resistor here. I'm going to use this 50 volt 0.1 UF polyester film cap. For my probe tip, I'm going to use a pogo pin. More on that later. And then down here, you have your ground clip. And then this is my guitar cord that I'm going to use. And so you would bring the positive here, and then the shielded lead to the negative. And that's the basics of our probe right there. Now we just got to put all this crap together. And so now we're going to talk about some of the details of how I'm going to build this thing. This is an old soldering iron that came from a hot air workstation that I used to have some years ago. The hot air machine part of it quit. I continued to use this soldering iron because it was a decent soldering iron for quite a while before the element finally burned out. So we're going to use this and try to convert it into some kind of way to end up with this pogo pin as our probe tip. But I mean, it makes sense to use this. It's made to grip. It's made to do kind of what we're going to be using it for anyway. And it's hopefully, when done, it's going to look like something that belonged on the bench to begin with. So let's break this thing down and see what we can make out of it. I don't think I need any of this. I think this is just excess stuff. I think this is all I'm going to need right here. I've got an idea of how to hopefully do this. We're going to find out anyway as we go. So how I'm envisioning this maybe happening is I'm thinking I've got this stupid old cheap mechanical pencil. I think I'm going to pull this cap off of it, and I'm sure I'll probably have to cut this tip down a little bit, but that should fit over the end of this, and I should be able to get my pogo pin in here. Then I will glue the cap to here and glue the pogo pin in here once I have all of that connected. I mean, I want to make all the connections first, and then of course obviously put it on there and see how it's going to work. I think that'll work. I haven't really tested it, but I think so. So if I put that on there, it actually fits pretty tight as it is. I'm going to have to trim that back a little bit to fit the pogo pin in there. But then I should end up with something like that, so that I can probe that circuit. Yeah, it should work. So that's what we're going to try to do. I'm going to try to trim this cap back where I can get that pogo pin in there. And hopefully you won't watch me Ginsu myself right here on video. But who knows? Okay. Now let's see what we're working with. Well, I have to go a little more. I want it to be as tight a fit naturally as possible so that I don't have to slather it with glue. So yeah, I think I've got it where it's gonna fit in there, hopefully. Yeah, there we go. Now we're cooking with Crisco. And once I drop some glue in on that, that'll be nice and permanent, and we got ourselves a good probe tip to use. Alright, I like it so far. Now I'm going to work on trying to get some of this stuff actually going and put together. I guess I should have done this off camera. I'm going to twist them up pretty good and try to get them through this strain relief and get this out the other end down here. Alrighty. Now then, we can actually start to build this sump. So one of the first things to do is my little old alligator clip here doesn't have an insulator on it, but that'll be alright. But it's just not long enough. That's what she said. So we're going to put an extension on it and heat shrink it up and make it look neat, because we're going to need to put it in here and bring it out down here too. Yeah, I'm soldered over here. Well, I need to clean my tip. That's also what she said. Tip, son. Alright. Where'd that shrinking heat go? Come here, son. Don't make me probe you. I ain't got no hot air machine, so that should be long enough for our ground clip. I'm gonna cut this nonsense off the end of this thing. See if we can stuff it up in here with it. This could be kind of difficult. Might have to take that strain relief off to get it through there. Come on now. You can do it. There you are. Get out of there. Yeah, that ought to leave us enough. That ought to leave enough to clip in most amps. So I moved ahead in this. I apologize. My camera didn't capture some of the stuff that I've been working on, but I've kind of got a lot done here. I had a couple of little disasters along the way. I got my pogo pin inside the tip. I soldered a wire to the end of it so it would make it out the end here. And so I tried to glue the pogo pin into the whatever that is, and had a small super glue disaster, as you might can tell on my fingers. So my pogo pin ain't gonna pogo anymore, unfortunately. But the tip is in there, everything's in there. So then let me get something to point with. So the tip is connected to our capacitor. The capacitor is connected to our 100K resistor. And that's how much I've got done so far. So now we've got to put our resistor, our 10K resistor, between here and ground, and this will connect to the positive. So that's the next step, and that's what I'm going to work on now. Okay, so here's where we are. So essentially I've got the 10K strapped between our positive and our negative lead coming in from our guitar cable, and then I've got the ground that's going to be to our alligator clip attached back here. So we have this in series technically across here, and then this is in parallel between positive and ground, or at least we hope that's what we've got. That's what we're trying for anyway. And then I'm going to use this heat shrink to cover all of this stuff up and make it safe to put inside the handle, and everybody's going to be happy. At least we hope. So I guess this is the moment of truth. So we're going to see if all of this will fit into our handle. I don't know. I don't test any of this stuff. I just do it. And so now then, now it's starting to look like a probe. Got our ground cable. Got this. I think I'm going to maybe put some heat shrink around all this to make it look a little better so it doesn't look quite. I'm still mad at myself that I goobered up the pogo pin. I mean, otherwise, what the hell was the point in using the pogo pin? And here's what I ended up with. Put that heat shrink on there to kind of take away some of the ugliness of how it worked, but overall, I'm pretty happy with the way it looks. We got our guitar cord to plug it into. We've got our grounding clip. So the next thing to do is to find out if this probe's actually going to work. So before I get this thing and try to test an amp with it, I thought I'd check continuity on it real quick. I mean, we can't check continuity on our positive because, or on our tip lead, because it won't pass through the capacitor and stuff. But we can check the ground to see if it's got continuity. And if it does, then I have confidence that the rest of it's going to work. So let's see if we can get continuity on our ground. Oh yeah! So that looks good. And that gives me the confidence to go ahead and get an amp out and see what we can make this thing do. So what we got here is a little guitar amp I built a couple of years ago. I call it the little big head amp. Some of you will get that and some of you won't. It's just basically just a little LM386 based guitar amp. Actually pretty good. You couldn't possibly play a bass guitar through it. I mean, you would never hear it, but for a guitar it actually does pretty well. This is the amp we're going to use to get to listen to our signal once we're probing it. So I've got the plug, our 1/4 inch guitar plug from our probe. I'm going to plug it in there. I've got a little speaker on my bench back here. We're going to plug in here. We'll hear our tone. So what I got set up here is just a simple way to test this. I don't have an amp opened up right now to test it with, so I've got this frequency generator on my phone, and I've got an RCA jack hooked up to it. I've got our little amp back here and our speaker set up, and so if our probe is working, we should hear a tone. And there we have it, a working probe. So if I were to take this RCA jack, plug it into the input of the amp that I want to test, and put that frequency through it, then I can take my probe and go anywhere in there and find that signal, and in the process find the fault, find out where it stops. And so that's going to wrap this one up. It's a fairly simple project. You don't have to have the handle and do it the way I did. You can do it in any basic way you want to. But it's a very useful tool when it comes time to actually fault check an amp. It makes the process much, much simpler. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Click that like button, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.